Alright, g'day guys, and welcome back to another set of PRs on the channel. This time we've got APA's main league. It is basically, well, it's the main showdown league that has turned into a league of friends. And because I have been invited and I am in no way qualified to do this, I've decided to add a couple of guys along for the ride for these PRs. This first episode, we've got, well, these first 8 teams. We've got Lapis here, if you want to say hi. Yeah.
Yep, sup guys?
And so yeah, we'll be diving straight into this, considering the last 2 videos I did were an hour long. Let's not waste any time. So starting up, we've got Johnny and his Eternicity Ordinos, and just a bit of background on this team. Johnny, for some reason, decided to pay. We had a 65-point budget. It was a points draft, and Johnny decided that instead of paying 14 points for his regular Mega Ordino, he decided to pay 37 before the draft started to guarantee that it is his round 1 pick, which is why his team looks kind of garbage other than that. So yeah.
It's a pretty bad decision all around, honestly.
Yeah, look, do you reckon it would have gone round 1 if he didn't do that? I mean,
No, I don't at all.
It's
the only way it would have gone would have been to spite him.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, I mean, looking at his team, he has a Mega Ordino, a Flygon, and then 8 Eviolite Mons. It's like, I mean, Doublade is kind of decent, and I mean, Zorua might be alright if he actually had some good Mons to disguise it as. But yeah, this team is not great, and hence why we both rank this last.
Yeah, having only 3 real Pokemon is like gonna be really hard to play with for sure. All things considered, though, given that he did spend over half his budget on the Mega Ordino, the team turned out way better than it had any business doing.
He had no, especially once he spent, like, 10 points on Flygon, and he spent 47 of his 65. He had no right to get a team that's, like, it's not good, but it's
like, it's not by far the worst team, and it should be. But, you know, like, all of his bottom tier picks definitely add, like, a lot of that utility that you do kind of need. Like, Prinplup and Mushtomp are decently bulky waters. Vullaby's pretty good as a defensive pivot, honestly. Monferno's not the worst fire type in the game right now. Munchlax is pretty good, honestly. Like, they all, surprisingly enough, do add value to the team. He did a really good job of picking his low-tier Pokemon.
Yeah, and I mean, he didn't fall into the trap of just trying to grab the 8 best garbage Mons either. Like, he's still got a good variety of types. There's no one, like, overbearing weakness to this team. It's just, well, the weakness is they're all shit.
Yeah, basically.
That's, I mean, he's basically going to have to play each week with 3 Mons, and considering that his fastest Mon is Flygon at base 100, and, like, most weeks, 3 of his Mons or 4 of his Mons are going to be carrying an Eviolite, like, this...
It's not good.
Ice coverage plus knockoff is going to, like, knock him back down past Indigo. Okay.
I mean, Mega Ordino can take that on, to be fair. Like, there's not a ton of stuff that's really threatening Mega Ordino that much, and Doublade covers Mega Ordino's weaknesses and vice versa quite well.
Yeah.
So he does have that going for him. Just knockoff, I don't really see what he does about knockoff except for pivoting in Mega Ordino every time.
Yeah, and I mean, Mega Ordino literally has to take every hit. So if he comes up against one of the 2, like, Nidoking, Nidoqueen, he just loses.
Yeah, he actually has no counterplay to a Scarf Nido.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think that's all we need to spend on that team, because the slide's already ticked over. So I've got my ranked 23rd team here. Now, just a disclaimer on the rank numbers. No, I didn't rank myself. I got the other 3 guys to do that. But there was no way that I was below these teams. So I just put 24, 23, etc. So we got Johnny and his Houston Rocketots. What are your thoughts on this team?
Well, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's the 23rd worst team. I think it's definitely within the bottom 8, though, for sure. The big thing is that, similarly to John, he only has 3 particularly decent Pokemon on it. He's going to be relying on Lantern in the same way that Johnny would be relying on Prinplup. Going to be relying on Claydol in similar ways. But other than those 2 Pokemon, a lot of the lower tier Pokemon aren't going to be providing a ton of value.
Yeah.
The big thing I see is just like how much it struggles to break steel types, because the only thing that can do that at all is Combusken, which does not actually do that in the least bit.
I mean, you never know. He could run a Specs Claydol. That's a thing.
Yeah, that's sort of a thing.
When Specs Claydol comes up as an option, you know the team's not gonna be good. But I mean, I think I look at this team and I just see he's obviously gone for the 12 mons as opposed to 9 or 10 like most coaches, and I think he's just lost a lot. Like, you look at Glaceon and it's like, that's a meh Wish Passer. You got Lantern, which is a bit of a kind of meh Water. It's just sort of he hasn't got really any value picks that warrant going 12 mons, I don't think.
Yeah. And like, especially considering how defensively geared this team is, for such crucial types like the water and the ground to not have reliable recovery, and the steel and fairy too, for that matter, it definitely makes it a lot harder to do its job as a defensive team. The one thing I will give credit for, though, is that there are some good pivots and good spike stacking. So, you can try to put pressure on that way just by setting up some spikes and then pivoting around with Decidueye, Crobat, etc. Try to put on some pressure that way. But like, that's kind of the only really redeemable quality I'm seeing for this team.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at this team as well, it's very slow outside of Crobat. Like, you have Crobat at base 130. You've always got Prankster Shenanigans from Klefki, but his next fastest mon is Pinsir and Stantler at 85. And so, if you've got a fast mon that just like, if you've got, say, a fast Steel that just doesn't care about Crobat, you don't need any speed. You outspeed Stantler and Pinsir, and then you have so much bulk and so much like heavy hitting that you'll get outsped by a Crobat. But if you handle that, that's no big deal.
So the other thing that I will give credit for is that Bouffalant can be a pretty strong wall breaker. And while all of these Pokemon do lose to steel types, they are putting that pressure on. At least, like, they're strong Pokemon that lose to steel types, so they can ship them down, considering there aren't really any steel types with reliable recovery around.
I mean, he got good hazard control, like 3 Rockers, a Spiker, and like 4 Defoggers and a Spinner. That's a bit overkill.
Yeah, given how bad a lot of other people's hazard control is, though.
I was putting these slides together, and there are teams that genuinely don't have any.
Yeah, those, in fact, are the teams that we're going to be talking about next, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no. Look, next team we've got Joe and his Chippenham Chestnuts. And, I mean, I'm now going to have... Oh, there we go. It just changed. Look at that.
Cool.
So the first thing that I look at this team, I see his first 4 mons. Well, not really Shaman, but like Mega Ampharos, Registeel, Swampert, and I just go, that is an amazing core if he had something to throw a wish to it that wasn't called Spritzy. Because, like, Mega Ampharos, that base 165 special attack, and he's got, like, decent bulk as well, so you can just fire off hits for days if you can keep getting your HP back. But he doesn't, and on top of that, he has no removal whatsoever. So...
Yeah, it legitimately is 0 options to remove hazards. 0 options to even stop hazards from going up in the first place, because the team is pretty slow. It's basically Rapidash for the speed, followed by Shaman. Those are the only kinds of things that can be remotely fast. And, Shaman's not going to stop a steel type from setting up rocks. Rapidash is not going to stop a ground type from setting up rocks. It's like,
Yeah.
Pretty much impossible. Hazards are gonna go up, and they're gonna stay up forever. Like, there's nothing he can do about that. And even though his defensive core looks really good, without any kind of wish pass, without any kind of reliable recovery, it's not really going to do its job, given that it's going to be taking like 25% from spikes. Everything's going to get poisoned from T spikes, and there's just nothing he can do to stop it.
I will say there is one team in this league that doesn't actually have a stealth rocker, a toxic spiker, or a spiker.
That's the only matchup that he wins, probably.
Joe is going to like barnstorm that matchup because Mega Ampharos and Shaman just can come in and click buttons for free.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the one minor saving grace he might have with terms of hazards is if he like spike stack himself with, I mean, it's a world peed though.
So yeah.
If you could get that thing in and maybe throw up a layer of spikes and T-spikes, the opponent might want to defog and be nice to him, but...
But, like, Wellipede is never outstacking any team.
Oh, not at all. I mean...
So, it's... No, like, this was already a point I was going to bring up. It's like that Wellipede can do that to force a defog, but it's just never going to outstack. It's going to die early because it has no offensive pressure and it's not super bulky. So even though it is getting speed boost, so it is decently reliable at getting up a few hazards, it's just going to get removed and then the other team's going to stack after. And that there's no reason to not like do that.
Yeah, it's...
Because there's not enough immediate offensive pressure to make people feel rushed in that either.
No,
like it's Mega Ampharos, Shaman, and like maybe Rapidash for that like immediate offensive pressure.
Yeah, and it's when your best physical attacker on the team, I'm pretty sure is Swampert. Like that's so what we've established here is this team is a bulky sort of slow team that has no recovery and no removal.
Like I feel like the WinCon is going to be hoping that they don't have T-spikes and trying to set up with Mashana or Machoke. I feel like that's the main way that he can win games because those are like the only options that he has. That doesn't mean he has to switch around a bunch. I mean, but everything else has to switch around a bunch to actually do its job properly.
Yeah, I mean, an agility Mega Ampharos, like maybe.
Yeah, that too, I guess.
Because we do have a fair few slow teams in here, so it probably can run Modest and a bit of HP. And
that's very true as well, yeah. And Agility Ampharos will be that other thing, but a lot of his team relies on pivoting in to stuff to do its job. So pivoting in with spikes and rocks up and no recovery is like not a winning strategy.
Yeah. I think like regular Ordino or Licky Licky was still around when he picked up that Mashana. I honestly reckon if he grabbed that then, and then like the round after a better grounded poison, something like Drapion, I don't know if it'd still be around or how much that was worth.
Drapion went round 3, so.
Okay. But like a more solid grounded poison, I reckon that team would have shot up like at least 5 spots. Because just that wish pass, a bit of removal, that's the other thing you need to grab.
Yeah.
So basically just wipe out everything by the first 4 mons and redraft the team and it would have been good.
Yeah, that's not too hard. That's not too much to ask.
No, not at all. And I mean, maybe another rocker would have been nice. Sticky web.
I think Registeel Swampert is sufficient for rocking needs.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, Swampert, I feel like you don't want to lock Swampert into rocking in low tier just because it's all right attacking stats that it has in a normal draft suddenly become fairly strong because you don't have anywhere near as many mons that want to take hits from it super well.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, there it is.
So next up we got Kurt and his East Coast Bishop. Nice fire new logo. And I mean, looking at this team, we are doing the team that has, after he made some post-draft transactions, because we would have bashed that first team a bit too hard.
I honestly think the first team was worse than the 37-point Ordino.
Well, didn't he leave himself... Didn't he use all but 4 points with his first 5 picks? And he just picked 4 1-point mons? Or am I mistaken there?
It was his first 6 picks, but yes.
So he picked 3 1-point mons, and it's just a bit like, well, I wonder what's coming this week.
Yeah, and they were terrible 1-point mons too.
Yeah,
so he had 6 Pokemon and they didn't synergize very well. So we'll talk about the new one now.
Yeah.
Basically, there's like it relies way more on Volbeat than any one team should, because it's got Mini or Salazzle as its only offensive pressure, realistically. Like, Go-Goat can set up and be an offensive pressure, Miltank can, like, sort of do it, but realistically it's Mini or Salazzle, both of which are weak to rocks, and then the only removal is Volbeat.
Wartortle gets spin.
Wartortle as well, yes, but...
but let's be real.
Wartortle and Volbeat. Wartortle is, like, not really wanting to come because Gastrodon is already going to be fulfilling that role. So Volbeat is generally going to want to come for that. It's generally going to want to come to be a pivot because he really needs to be able to pivot into Salazzle as much as possible to put on any offensive pressure. So it's basically just Persian and Volbeat for that because Salazzle can't swap into much of anything. It's just too frail.
I see. Even
then, it also kind of needs Tower Glow past to Salazzle to really like have that be an offensive strengthening option.
Yeah, I see this team being pretty predictable in that Salazzle Mini will probably come every week. Persian and Volbeat come most weeks, and then one of like and then two of like Miltank, Gastrodon, Go-Goat, and maybe Wartortle if like for some
Wartortle
reason.
will be niche. Gothita should probably never come, and if it does, then it won't actually trap anything because it's too frail. And Lampent is trash, so I don't even know why he picked that one up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lamppost and it looks kind of cool. That's genuinely all I've got. But yeah,
it's slow, it's frail, it's weak. It doesn't really succeed at anything, except it's like ghost attacking is nice.
Yeah. So, like, Volbeat's going to want to come in, it's going to want to defog, U-turn, probably throw up some T-waves to allow Minior and Salazzle to run, like, Adamant and Modest to be able to hit hard. Persian's going to parting shot to maybe let Salazzle get a nasty plot off, and then Miltank's just going to set rocks and do Miltank things.
Yeah. The big issue with this draft is that it's built around Minior, but it just doesn't support it very well at all. Like, the only support for it is the Persian, really.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's, like, not really getting the support it needs to set up. It's going to hope that Volbeat T-Wave Paras give it an opportunity or something, or hope that it can keep rocks away so it can maintain its sash. But, it just doesn't come in very easily because there's no ways of coming into water types that maintain any kind of momentum.
Yeah, like he goes.
Go-Goat is the closest thing to that.
Or even maybe Gastrodon.
Like Gastrodon just doesn't maintain that momentum. Is the issue. Like, so when your offensive Pokemon can't take the water hits, and then the things that can take the water hits just give your opponent free reign to do pretty much whatever, you're gonna run into a lot of problems really quickly.
Yeah, I think this is, looking at the Mons individually, it doesn't deserve to be ranked like 21st, but it's like he hit the randomizer on the draft because he's got like one or two Mons synergize with each other here and there, and then it's just there's not much as a team, really.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if an opponent has like a bulky fire, what breaks that before Minior sets up? Like Gastrodon, maybe? Like,
it's just not. It's got a lot of problems that it just doesn't cover, even though it's not really like overlapping with types. It just still somehow doesn't synergize, right?
Yeah, he's got 10 Mons and only one doubled up type, yet somehow there's a lot of types he still doesn't cover.
Yeah.
But I mean, watch me lose to this week 1, so yeah. Okay, I think other than that, like as we've said, his hazards are actually one of the few decent things. Well, not even decent because Minior is one of his rockers.
It's basically Miltank, actually. That's like
Well, it
Miltank and
is.
Mignour set rocks. So it's not even really that good.
Yeah. I mean, Miltank's probably one of the best rockers in the
Yes,
tier.
but being forced to run rocks is gonna really dampen like its versatility
Yeah,
in any
because
matchup.
if Miltank wasn't pressured to be like soak hits physically or run rocks, it could have that like power up punch set that puts on a bit of pressure. But oh well. Anyway, we got the next squad in here, and this is my rank 20. There's one mon on this team that I'm probably being a bit biased towards. You've got this at 23.
Yeah, I think everyone else does as well. Actually,
I think Owen had it at 22. But yeah, I'll let you bash this team, and I'll try and find a saving grace that makes it better than the last few.
all right. So the biggest issue with the team is that it just like similarly to Kurtz, it just doesn't have a lot of cohesion. It's just lacking so much synergy. It's basically reliant on Mandibuzz almost solely to be that defensive role, and none of the Pokemon really synergize all that well with it. Marowak is the defensive backbone for Mandibuzz to be supported with, and defensive Marowak is not a set that you really want to be running when it's your only wall breaker, outside of I guess Passimian. It's trying to build around Mandibuzz, but he got sniped so hard that he has to have Mr. Mime be his fairy, Sandslash be his ground, Clang be his steel, and Basculin be his water. So he's just lacking good Pokemon that can soak hits in every single defensive category for all of the main types. So I feel like it just struggles to build around that defense effectively.
I mean, he did pick up an amazingly defensive mon round 7 in that Cradily.
He did do that. Cradily is another saving grace, I'll be honest. Because it is a water immunity, which otherwise he struggles with so much. So Cradily has to come, because otherwise he doesn't have a water resist.
I mean, his water resist is Basculin, so...
Yeah.
I mean, at least he got the Rockhead Basculin, so he doesn't take recoil. So...
Very crucial distinction there.
Well, I mean, if he was swapping into a water move and then trying to head smash something, he's already lost his Basculin.
Yes.
I mean,
he'll probably be running Mold Breaker or Adaptability still every single week, but it's an option.
I mean, this team saddens me because I was helping Scott build, and I mean, it got to that round 7, and I was just like, you know what? You need something that can take hits that isn't named Marowak or Mandibuzz. And I mean, Sandslash and Mr. Mime can take 1 each. I was like, you need Cradily. It's like...
Yeah, the team just struggles so much when rocks go up to deal with so many things. And even when rocks aren't up, it still struggles to deal with rock fighting coverage or rock ground coverage pretty hard. It still struggles to deal with Bolt Beam because Marowak is the defensive swap into that. It's just...
Yeah, Edgequake kind of cucks this team because...
Yeah.
There's 4 mons that aren't hit super effectively by it, and on a 10-mon roster, that's not good. He could genuinely bring a team of 6 that is weak to Edgequake.
Yeah, the only real answer to it is Cradily.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Even then, a strong EQ or an Earth Power...
It's still neutral.
Yeah.
There's no resist. Which isn't a big deal because most teams don't have a resist to both Edgequake.
I mean, you're forgetting Magnet Rise Clang. That's...
That's true. I did forget about that. But really the only resists to, if you've got something that resists ground and isn't weak to rock, then you're fine. But if you've got something that resists rock and isn't weak to ground, then you're not fine. That's how I view it. Because generally speaking, ground types are going to be the more common spammers of Edgequake.
Yeah, especially because... I mean, you got that chance that Stone Edge can miss, and...
Yeah.
Well, not chance, it will miss.
The guarantee.
It's...
This isn't a threat, this is a promise. Stone Edge will miss.
I mean, this team... I think this team is a few mons away from being a decent team. some wish pass into the likes of Sandslash, Swalot, Alolawak, and Clang would make them actually pretty decent sponges. Like Assault Vest Swalot can actually, or like Stockpile can actually do some damage if you don't prep for it. But it's just
There's like not really much reason to not prep for it because you don't need to prep too much for anything.
yeah,
I feel like it does have the pieces to deal with most things. It's just that it needs to work so much harder than pretty
yeah,
much any other roster to do it.
yeah. I think it's. I mean, looking at this team, you prep like if you prep for a mon to be able to take like a modest Z move from a Selgor because that thing actually gets a lot of coverage and is one of his Z users. I'm pretty sure. So like if you've got something to take that, and then physically you want something to take a hit from like the Simeon and Alolawak, then you can just put so much more effort into wearing down slowly the rest of his team until it's Mandibuzz Credelli left, and then you just go into something that hits like a truck, and yeah, it's
It struggles. It's got the pieces which some of the other teams that are below don't have,
yeah,
but it just struggles so much harder than those teams still, I feel.
yeah. Well, we've just checked over to Mid and his Star City Archers, and the first thing that I notice about this team is its only hazards is Sticky Web from Slurpluff. There's no rocks, there's no T-spikes, there's no spikes. And then his removal is one defogger, one spinner. And like Serena as a spinner is like pretty decent, but it's also his only strong physical attacker outside of Zydog.
It's this team is so close to being one of the best teams in the league, honestly.
Oh,
Like it's so close. Like you give it like say let's take a look like maybe you give it a Kabutops or a Barbaracle or something like that. Just a water type and rocks are the only two things that it's missing, really.
well, I mean,
Like
we
it is missing a
established
steal as well, I
we
believe.
established the team that has Swampert as pretty trash, so maybe Mid just like goes, "Hey, hit me up with one of those," and then this team becomes like quality.
Yeah, just it's so close. It like Zygarde, Slurpuff, Chandelure is such a strong offensive core because Chandelure is breaking everything that Zygarde doesn't want to deal with. Slurpuff is breaking the things that Chandelure generally is going to struggle with. So is Scrafty for that matter. And just like they clear the path for each other so well, except that teams can just run Sash on every single Pokemon
Yeah.
and not have an issue because the team is super offensive anyway. So you can go into your Sashmon, take the hit, kill them back, rinse, repeat, and just play the Sack War and win every time.
The only thing that punishes that is like Zydog's extreme speed, and Zigzagoon's extreme speed.
Yeah, all they can do is revenge your Sashmons.
Yeah,
but at that point, the Sashmon already got a kill, and then you go into your second Sashmon and kill the Zygarde. Like, you can bring 6 Sashmons, and that would be a really good strategy to beat Mid's team, because it's just all offense. The only, like, really good defensive Pokemon are, like, Scrafting, maybe Serena, maybe Vikavolt.
Yeah.
And obviously, actually, Duosion is king.
Yeah.
Shout-outs to that one. But, yeah, it's just, like, you're going to win the Sack War pretty much every single time by getting up rocks and then killing everything.
Yeah, I mean, this team, I think he focused so much in his first 6 picks on just, like, trying to cover the last Mon's weaknesses. Like, he's gotten Zydog and Slurpuff as his first couple, and it's like, okay, we'll get Chandelure, and that patches, like, what they can't hit, and then Scrafty helps with what, like, Chandelure and Slurpuff can't hit. And then it's like the same thing with Duosion and Vikavolt, and he's gotten to like his last 3 and gone, oh shit, I have no hazards, I have no removal. Help, what am I doing?
Yeah, Serena only removal, Drifblim as the pick-up for the flying type. Like, he did a decent job of picking up things that would be needed. But I feel like even if instead of getting Zigzagoon, like, which I don't understand why that thing is 2 points, by the way. If instead of doing that, he got, let's take a look at the 1-pointers. If he got just fucking, like,
even just something that sets
just
rocks.
random water, like, you know, Primplop was obviously taken, so not that. But let's say Clauncher.
Or maybe
and
Shellos, because I think
and
it's...
Corsola, and like just whatever water type and whatever rocker.
Just
for 1
basically
point.
like grab the 1 point tier, throw it in a dock, and sort by whichever has the highest base stats, and then just swap that for Zigzagoon, and then hope it gets rocks.
Omanite even, like, just whatever water type and whatever rocker available in 1 point. So at the very least, the teams have to think twice before bringing 6 Stashmons.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll know if Mid watches this video or not, because once it's dropped, he's either going to drop Zigzagoon in about 30 seconds, or he's going to keep it for the season, and...
I just don't see why Zigzagoon is here. Like, you've already got Zygarde for extreme speed, you've already got Slurpuff for belly drum. Like, what is Zigzagoon accomplishing for the team?
I mean, it's the HM slave. He's obviously built an in-game team.
Of course, this is his in-game draft.
Yeah, because in-game you don't need hazards and you don't need removal, so this is a
great point.
Yeah, and like in-game you just belly drum with Slurpuff turn 1 unless you face a steal, and then you just swap out into Zydog and like 1,000 arrows that thing to death.
Yeah. Seems like a very solid strategy in-game. Yeah. I'm going to retract where I put Mid before and move him up to 1, I think.
He beats everyone on the sheer fact that no one else can use their team in-game. Because he can even grab a Zigzagoon and use that until he can catch the other, 8 Mons.
Yeah, I don't know when he's getting Zygarde, but whatever.
He's playing post-game with it.
Of course.
You know when you compliment a team calling it the best in-game team, that something's gone wrong.
Yeah, just something's gone awry here.
Look, and I think at this point, we've swapped over to Shy Guy and his San Diego Feels, and yes, Shy is going to hate me because I put him at like 18th in Indigo as well, but like, man, please draft something decent. Like, looking at this team first off, like, hang on, I had to go to a whole nother page of notes for this guy. Like, this team is so slow apart from Manectric. Like, you have this, and then what's its next fastest mon? Like, Metagross?
Shadowed, I think, but... yes, Metagross is the next fastest actual Pokemon.
Yeah. Like, if you have a solid ground type that doesn't die to Flamethrower, then you can just run Modest with, like, max HP on every mon, and you'll still outspeed his roster.
Yeah, it's so damn slow. Like, when I first was looking at this team, I was like, holy shit, Metagross, Aromatisse, Jagauki, that sounds broken.
Oh, like,
and then I saw, wait a second, where's his speed? Then I saw, wait a second, where's his removal? It's Avalugg. This is the only team that's ever been crafted in Gen 7 that struggles to deal with a spin blocker.
Yeah. I mean, well, he has Chatot that gets defog.
Okay. That's not doing anything. It's base 90 speed and has no bulb.
Just Scarf defog every week and just
it's got to bring Scarf defog. Yeah, like, looking at his week 1 game against me, like, he lost because he couldn't deal with a Gardevoir, because the Gardevoir outsped his entire team and 8 Manectric hits, and he couldn't remove spikes. So he had 3 layers of spikes and rocks on his side.
Well, that's the other point I was going to make, is what on his team wants to take special hits? Like
it's
Dragalge.
Aromatisse, Metagross.
Well, Dragalge is like base 120s per def. And like Metagross and Aromatisse are like, it's half decent, but it's not taking any, like, we'll take Chandelure off Mid's team. Like, it's not swapping into either of those.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I think Avalugg on this team is, like, kind of nice because it's just that fat defensively, and if you had some removal, I think it would be a decent sort of physical blanket check. But
Yeah, it's got just the fact that Manectric is the only speed is such a big detriment because Manectric can't do anything except for the one thing it does. It runs 3 moves every week and then decides whether it wants to which hidden power it wants to run
yeah,
as the 4th move.
It's Volt Switch,
That's
T-Bolt, Overheat, and then am I running a hidden power or am I running like a niche Thunder Wave? Which, in fairness, he probably has to every week just run Thunder Wave. Because
but he can't because he needs hidden power to break most ground types. Like remotely. It's 5 moves. Like, it doesn't even get dual screens. It only gets light screen.
I mean, if
so
it
can't even run that.
If it got dual screens, then maybe you could just be like, well, I'm going into Metagross or I'm going into Camerupt and setting up a Rock Polish and then just trying to win before you hit me too hard.
Yeah, his team takes hits quite well, especially with a Ramatista Wish Pass.
Yeah.
But that's just not as big of like a benefit when you get Hazard stacked, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you don't have good removal as long as you can stop the hazards from going up. Yeah. And a fair few of these teams just can't do both.
Yeah.
And like, this is one of them. It can't stop hazards from going up because its main offensive threats lose to the main rockers and it isn't fast enough to beat most spikers. And it can't remove because Avalog gets spin blocked and most teams still seem to have a ghost for some reason. I don't know why, but they do.
It's because they all got scared of Shy's first 3 mons, and when
that's why I picked up a ghost specifically to spin block because it's like maybe it'll help.
and you saw this
and lo and behold, it helped.
And then you saw this in your week 1, and you're like, well, now I can just drop my spin blocker.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of Quagsire, but I don't think it fits this team because if he had like a fatter, I don't think his team hits hard enough that I don't see too much setting up in front of him. Like,
I think it's fine though because Quagsire doesn't need to be unaware. Remember, Quagsire has water absorb, so it's also a water immunity. So it's his water and his ground, and it's doing all the things that waters need to do, i.e. swapping into water attacks.
Yeah.
So I think Quagsire fits pretty well. It's just that Seismitoad or Swampert would fit better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just that little bit extra bulk from like a Seismitoad, even a Gastrodon, would have meant that he wasn't as pressured to pick up Avalog as his sort of big physical wall, and he could have used Avalog and then just pretty much anything after that to pick up some more speed, just better removal, and this team could have shot way up.
For sure.
Because at the end of the day, you really need to pivot. Like, for this team to do well, it needs to pivot into Metagross, Dragouge, and Pangoro well. But yeah, so now we've just swapped over to our last team for this video, Owen's Seattle Sandstorm. And what do you? I'll let you start off with this team.
Well, I actually had this team a fair bit higher. I had it at 12.
Yeah.
Well, it's not super great necessarily. I just think that it does its job quite well. It's got very strong breakers. Darmanitan and Mega Banette are super hard to stop in this thing. It has Zebstrika and Swordsbuck as pretty decent options for putting some pressure onto the water types, even though they don't swap into them super well, because Darmanitan does pivot out quite effectively to get them in. So it has a pretty nice Volt Turn core going on there. And I think P2 in this format is just so effective at being a solo wall. Because it's just so fat, and the only thing that's breaking it effectively is fighting types, and it's getting knocked off. And it's got Mega Banette to take advantage of the fighting types quite effectively, and it's got Hitmontop to pivot into knockoff quite effectively. So I think that P2 can function as a solo wall very effectively. The big detriment I see is that the only rocker is Dugtrio, so it may have to sack its speed to get up rocks if it's not careful.
Can we?
And also, it is a bit fighting weak still, just in general.
Yeah. Um, yeah, you said you had this team at 12th. I've put it at 13th because there's no way you're in the bottom 14, well, below this team.
Yeah.
So I've got this a bit lower at 17 because I look at it and I go, looking at well, he's got no rocks, and this is the second team in a row, well, second team this video that just gets walled by a spin blocker because his only removal is Hitmontop. Like, he doesn't even...
That's also true, yeah.
He doesn't even have the token chatot that it's like, oh, this team has 3 spin blockers and hazard stack. I'm just going to sack this mon because I'm running Scarf Defog. And the other thing I see is he hits amazingly hard physically, like Dumb Anatan, Mega Burnett, Hitmontop, Malamar, Zeb Striker, and Sorsbuck even, and then Doug Trio. But his best special attacker is Porygon 2. And that would be great if it wasn't forced to almost solo wall every week, because his best answers to physical attacks are Porygon 2 and Intimidate Hitmontop. So I feel like the other thing is he doesn't hit very hard specially, which means that you can almost run, instead of a special wall, just run like 2 physical walls and just slap an AV on something that hits hard to be able to pivot in. So,
that is very true. His special attackers aren't the best, for sure. That is a detriment to it. Even though his only spinner is Hitmontop, I will give a little bit of benefit to that because Hitmontop gets Foresight. So it's always going to be running that versus any spin blockers anyway. And the team can like functionally pressure hazard stackers away a little bit better. So I think it's a bit better than mids in that regard, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lack of special attack is going to hurt it a lot. But because the physical attackers are so strong, it's generally speaking going to be able to deal with a lot of physical walls anyway in low tiers, I feel. But yeah, those are definitely some big problems with it, which is why it's not one of the top teams. It has a fair few synergy problems just in general. Having Lapras be a water, Lapras is pretty bulky, but it's also an ice type, which really hurts it defensively. Yeah. And having Dugtrio be a ground type is going to be quite a pain to have to deal with.
Fast Electrics just run a hidden power, and it's like, oh, you have a Dugtrio? I've got rocks up, here's a hidden power, bye. Now what's your ground type? It's...
Exactly. There's no resist except for the Dugtrio and Zeb Striker.
Yeah.
Zeb Striker's a pretty good one, though.
Yeah, Zeb Striker was...
But, yeah.
Admittedly, I was looking at Zeb Striker because it gets Sap Sipper as well, so that's a grass immunity, which, kind of helps this team out because other than that, it was like Sorsbuck and Muck being a grass, and I'm Dumb Anatan, so he didn't really need it, but it's nice to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing I did see is, aside from P2, his reliable recovery is non-existent. Like, the likes of Muck, Lapras, Hitmontop, even Malamar after a couple of like superpower boosts, all can take hits sort of well, but they just get worn down very easily and then force Hitmontop in to spin, which then wastes a turn taking a hit, and that thing's getting worn down. So I feel like games are going to go very quick for Owen here, because
yeah, I agree with that.
He either breaks things with like Dumb Anatan and Mega Burnett, and then traps the one wall with Dugtrio.
Dugtrio is not Arena Trap.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's not.
It is 5 points. Could be a bit much.
Can you imagine that Arena Trap Dugtrio lasts to round 7 in low tiers?
Yeah. The team would shoot up pretty dramatically.
Oh, it's like, oh yeah,
Dugtrio
this is like rank 2. Okay, and we're now back to Johnny's team. Yeah, I think so. That's going to be the end of this part. Thanks for joining me. We will be back with Ogle next time, or Owen, or OG Albina, as I've recently learned that's how you say it.
This was a revelation to everyone.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so next time we will be covering teams 16 to 9. No, I won't be missing a team like I did with Indigo. That was... yeah, okay. Well, anyway, let's wrap this up here. All right.